Good afternoon, this is Jack from theartofchart.net, and this is the intraday video for Tuesday the 12th of February. Our disclaimer, we do this for educational purposes only. We're here to share our technical analysis with you. We hope you can take some of what we're doing and learn from it, transfer it to your own charts. We're not here to issue trading signals. Right, where are we? Well, we've had the first retest of the high on ES, gone a little higher, still got a very acceptable double bottom. Obviously, the first target was 2730, where we had inverted head and shoulders. We do not have any negative divergence yet, and it's possible we're going to need to develop some. I was expecting high retests on all of NQ, ES, and RTY. We haven't quite got it on NQ yet, but I'm expecting to see it, and we are very close, but not quite there yet. So I'm expecting to see that full retest before we turn. By that stage, we may have negative divergence on ES. That would probably require some sort of modest retracement to set up that divergence before we went up. Okay, let's have a look at RTY. RTY, we've already seen the retest and then some. We did have a weak sell signal fixed, and we had that fail. So at the moment, we have no current negative divergence. DAX. DAX, I've got an IHS here, and the IHS target is in the 11,245-ish area. Obviously, we're some way short of that. It may, and it looks like we're forming a flag, it may be that we are going to go up there. At the moment, we have no negative divergence, so we're really looking for at least a retest of this high. ESTX, we've come up and we're finding resistance so far at the back test of broken rising wedge support. We do have a weak sell signal fixed there. And actually, sorry, I actually put that out for no reason, but we do actually have the sell signal there, and that has not yet failed. And it may well be that it's not going to fail. You can see there's a pretty decent looking rising wedge from the low here. I've not marked it up, but it's nice. So it may be that this is already in the high area. All right, let's have a look at the RTH charts. Right, on the 15-minute, we do have negative divergence now, but we don't yet have it on the 60-minute, either on the RSI 5 or the RSI 14. We're probably going to need to see that. Nice-looking double top as we are now. On the obviously, we had resistance at the 5 DMA. That's now support. Oh, hang on, wait a second. I haven't got the 5 DMA on here. Yeah, I'll just post that. I'll just pull that up while I'm looking at the other one. So, wait a second. Right, on SPX, obviously we've seen a higher high here. We've already got negative divergence, a possible RSI 5 sell signal brewing here. We've got a nicer one brewing now. This one I'm expecting to fix. It could go a little higher before that fixes. We are also crossing the 200 DMA. That is now at 2743/4, and it is, of course, rising. So we're slightly above that now, and we've delivered the full retest. This is where I'm looking for topping action to occur. We're only really missing the 60-minute out of the ones I usually follow. We've got a 5-minute sell signal fixed. We're waiting for the 60-minute divergence to develop. All right, hang on one second. Let's switch to the 2018. All right, I've got the 5 DMA at 2720. That is now support, and the next break below it is likely to be the one. Right, let's have a look at the other charts. RUT. Again, we got 15-minute negative divergence. That should be pretty close to a sell signal there. So on the 60-minute, we're still waiting for it. It's going to need at least to retest the high. And I think on the daily chart, yeah, we've got a nice daily RSI 5 sell signal brewing now. NDX, we've got a 15-minute divergence. I don't think we've got 60-minute yet. No, we haven't. We're likely to need to have a retest of this line here, which has not quite been hit. Yeah, NQ is the weakest on this one here. It's all right. I'll answer some questions now, some at the end. And on the daily chart, we've got a nice RSI 5 sell signal brewing as soon as that high is retested, and I am expecting that to be retested. So, right, let's have a let's just cover some of the index questions. Gerardo, I can't make you the presenter. Right, hang on. 2800-ish on daily looks next resistance level possible, last recent top. It is possible, but first we're going to need to have a breaking conversion of the 200 DMA. I'm doubtful about seeing that, in all honesty, on the overall pattern setup, but it is possible. Hang on. Much higher do I see ES going to before a pullback to below 2700? Well, I'd like to see the reversal in this area here. Likely to be a little higher than we are now, maybe 2750, possibly as high as 2760. I wouldn't like to see it higher than that. If we do see it higher than that, then we are breaking up to the next level of resistance, which is possibly as high as the 2800 area. No FANG stock as we tested the high. Netflix close. Yeah, I mean, NQ has been the weakest by some margin. If S&P backtests its own broken declining resistance trend line from the October high and finds support at the monthly pivot area, is the ATH retest a logical next move? It would certainly be a much more significant target at that level. And it is possible we could see it play out that way. I think we're at the moment we're divided. Stan's thinking that the nature of the market has changed and my stat may not deliver. The reality is it's a strong stat. So my working assumption is it is going to deliver. Having said that, as I said, the most bullish thing to see at the moment that we could see would actually be a retest of the 2300s low, marginal lower low, and then finding support there. Because then, if we went and tested the main rising support and found support there, then as I said, the next obvious trendline target would be in the 3000s. That would be 3200 and rising. So we could see that. I'm not expecting to see anything that bullish, but maybe. So the most bullish thing we could do right here would be one of the most bearish things we could do right here in the short term, but it would be bullish longer term. Okay, hang on. Do I have divergence on the daily RSI 14? No, I don't. I don't have it because it hasn't reached the 70 area yet. If we look at the, hang on, RSI 14 there, it hasn't reached the 70 level. For me, divergence only starts when you get to the 70 level. So in terms of the sell signals, we've got a bit of negative divergence here, but it's not something I would ever see as a signal because I only count the signals from when you've reached the 70 area. Before that, it's too easy for them to fail, and it's too easy to confuse something which is just a natural retracement with something which is more likely to be a high. Okay, great. In that case, that covers indices. Let's roll on to CL. Now, CL, what I was talking about last night when we saw the bounce at the monthly pivot was we had the wedge, broke up from that, and I was talking about the possibility that we were forming a larger head and shoulder pattern here, which would have an ideal right shoulder high in the 5450 area. Now, resistance is 54 to 5450, and at the moment it's reversing at the lower end of that. It's possible that we've already seen that right shoulder high. Honestly, I'd expect it to take another day or two to make the high. And actually, that might be a match with indices because it might take another day or two to actually set up the divergence and get going here. The question is how much we would move in the interim. I'd be thinking it wouldn't rise much if we weren't going to see a significant break of the 200 DMA. So I'm wondering whether we're topping out here and whether we might spend a couple of days kicking around setting up the 60-minute negative divergence and the topping pattern. All right, CL may do the same, and ideally it would then come down to the monthly pivot again, break down slightly below it, and either at that stage reject back up into higher highs. That would be the IHS target in 66 area to be made over the next couple of months, or continue down to this head and shoulder target, which would be in the 47 area. I'd be leaning towards option A, but there's always a possibility we'd see option B. There is news risk here because of the Venezuela situation. NG, this is, I was saying last night my preferred option would actually be a retest of the low, and we may do that retest of the low, and that would be better from a divergence point of view on the bigger picture charts. But if we're not going to do that, we've already got a pretty nice looking IHS here. We could be on the way back to the neckline and then break up, and that would take us, I was talking about this yesterday, almost back to the 3 area, which would be monthly pivot 2.997. At which point we might get to a stage, you'll notice this target is almost exactly at one of the lines I've marked in, which is a possible IHS neckline. This one is not a possible IHS neckline, it's a bit too high, but this one, pretty much ideal, more or less a 50 back. That could be nice. So I'm thinking we may well be starting a process where we reverse this whole wedge and maybe go higher. Okay, GC, obviously DX has been retracing here. So we have been going sideways on GC. Chances are we're going to see another leg up on DX. At that stage, I'm thinking GC may finally make it back to this rising support currently in the 1301/2 area. This looks like a short-term triangle forming that would likely be resolved down. That would normally resolve down. SI, possible double bottom forming here, could be forming a triangle as well. Keeping an open mind, the triangle's not as nice. This could go a bit lower, but we've really this is more likely to have actually made its divergence targets. I'm wondering if we'll just do a marginal lower low and go up. We shall see. Right, HG, I've got a bit of positive divergence here. It's only weak buy signal divergence potentially, but more importantly, I've got a potential trend line here. This may be a falling wedge, and we may be about to break up from the falling wedge. Watching resistance here with interest. If we get over here, we'll have a weak buy signal fixed. I've not got that marked in. Mainly because this kind of weak buy signal where the high has gone over the 50 area but is say it's still below 60 tends to, well, often doesn't give you really any time to trade it once the signal is fixed and before it makes target. So it's more convenient when it's like this, and you get the signal here. It's marginally better, but this is a great one where you get the signal up here, and you've got lots of time to get into it before it delivers. Okay, ZB broke down from the channel. I've got a weak 60-minute buy signal fix, and that could deliver or not. I think much depends on which way equities are going. So I'm keeping an open mind there. Overall, my general lean is bullish. I think we're just waiting for a turn on a yes. Okay, DX. DX has obviously broken down from the short-term setup. I'm really wondering about a retest of the 97.5 area, and I think what we're doing is we're establishing a slightly more credible and less vertiginous support trend line. So I think I'm expecting a retracement and then higher. The 60-minute sell signal is fixed, reconfirmed, and is pretty close to the possible near-miss target. EURUSD, this is broken up from the very tight and very nice falling channel. Doing a retracement, we've made the 60-minute buy signal target. I'm expecting to see probably a bit higher and then at least a retest of the low. Okay, USD/JPY. I've got a 60-minute sell signal fixed here. I think really it's waiting for DX, but DX has been dropping quite a bit today, and JPY has not been dropping. Likely this means that it's got at least some more upside to go, and probably more than DX has to go. This is in a stronger upward trend. USD CAD, this looks like a possible flag or triangle forming. I am wondering about at least a retest of this high. We made the sell signal target, so that's no longer in play. We're testing support at the weekly pivot. Australian dollar. We've made a marginal lower low. We've got a possible double bottom here. Might turn into an IHS. We've made the buy signal target, but I'm leaning higher. As long as we're holding monthly pivot support, we're going up. Okay, KC. KC has gone lower here. I would mention Stan's been more bullish than me on KC. I'm still seeing potential unfinished business in the 98 area, and I'm wondering whether we're going there. Could we go to 95 as Stan is suggesting? Yes, we could. That for me would be a marginal lower low against this low. And it would also it would be a marginal lower low against the main bear market low, which is why I'm thinking we have unfinished business. I'm keeping an open mind. This is a higher low, otherwise we'd have a 60-minute buy, possible 60-minute buy signal brewing. I'm leaning towards seeing a test of 97, 98 next. We shall see. Okay, SB, I've got breaking up from this channel here. That's great. I'm really liking this on the high upside, and I would note that we found support at the monthly pivot. That's well converted to support. I really like it on the long side, pretty much directly from here. CC, we came down a bit, but we have respected the main support trend line that you can't see on this chart, but is on the daily chart. That is main channel support. As long as it stays above it, ideally above weekly pivot now, and then converting monthly pivot to support, I could see a move up into the 2400s. That would be nice to see. And until we break that trend line, that's definitely on the table. If we get down below 2170, we've broken that trend line, and that potentially opens the downside. Okay, ZW. ZW is trading between the weekly pivot and the monthly pivot. I've got a very nice potential long setup here on ZW, but we need to convert 538, and obviously we're some way from doing that. As long as we don't turn the monthly pivot into resistance, then I think we're fine. If we do turn it into resistance, then this actually potentially could go back into the 400s. Corn getting back over monthly pivot, weekly pivot, no current divergence really, keeping an open mind. But I would note that it tends to trade along with soy, and soy, while has broken this trend line here, I think has held trend line support on the bigger picture. As long as that remains the case, I'm leaning somewhat higher on soy in the context, however, of the possibility that it is forming an overall bear flag. So it may well be that this can deliver a retest back into the 800s at some point, but there's no particular reason to think that that's starting now. Okay, great. In that case, I'm going to... Well, have we got any questions today apart from the ones I've already answered? RCY, yep, hang on. Give me a minute and I'll go back to that. Right, RTY has made a higher high. This is a little high for this to be a double top, probably. I've got a weak sell signal fixed and has failed there. I'm really waiting for divergence, same as I am to. That's all right, mate. Waiting for negative divergence, same as I am for ES and NQ. Here's NQ. NQ is likely to do a full retest of this high, so it needs to go a little higher. ES has already retested, obviously, and is above it. Has no negative divergence at the moment. We're probably going to need to develop some. So looking at the RTH charts, what I'm seeing is here we haven't got any negative divergence here on the hourly RSI 14, and we can develop some, and on the RSI 5 now. But I'm not really expecting this to go a lot higher. We'll see how it goes, but I'm until we see a sustained break and conversion. Currently we've got no negative divergence really on any basis. Unless you're counting the trough here, for instance. But I mean, really, I'm only really looking at the area between 70 and 50 and 50 and 30. Basically, it needs to be at 70 or higher to do the first high. So we're there on both the RSI 5 and the RSI 14. Then you need a dip. Ideally, that goes below the 70 level or touches it. And then you need a lower high while price does a higher high and then down. That's the sort of divergence we're looking for. We haven't got it here, but we have got it, obviously, on the daily, where we've got a very nice one. This is a higher high. We've got a lower high on RSI. This is a very nice RSI 5 sell signal brewing. And as soon as NDX retests the high, we'll have one there too, and we've already got another one. We've already got one on RUT. Right, any more questions? RSI was at 78.5 on the hourly, got down to 74 and is now 77.9. Is that your first high you're talking about? No, it can't be. Okay, well, yeah, it needs to be visible on this hourly chart already. At the moment, that's only a tiny dip. It's not something I'd really count as a divergence yet. Having said that, there is more than one way to calculate RSI. This is one of the standard ways of doing it, but it can get a bit confusing because there's more than one way of doing it. Okay, in that case, everyone's questions are answered. I'm going to stop.